Hey, what's going on? It's again been a while. I know I mentioned in the last vlog that I'd only really kind of continue making videos when I have a story or two, but I don't really have a story. But I've been requested by a bunch of friends, and it's been on my mind to make a vlog. I kind of miss doing them often. I'll see what I can do about that. If it's my life has been fairly full lately. Take these off. I know. See the reflection for them. Between trying to figure out where I fit in and how to survive in this world as a young adult, it's hard sometimes, right? It can take up a lot of your time. Between that and looking for work, it's not easy. But I'm lucky enough to have people in my life who can make it a little better. Actually, my eyes are starting to hurt without my glasses. I'm just gonna put them back on and deal with the consequences of it later. Oh, that's. I can't tell if that's worse or better. God, I need to fix my eyes. God. Uh, with that said, I'll try to keep this one as short as I can. I know I'll upload raw footage as I usually do, so there's oh you guys can kind of not have the gaps in between, get to know me if you're new, that kind of thing. To keep it short and simple, I kind of decided that today I would like to talk about the state of the world and my idea of what makes up the human psyche, right? Now, a lot of people will say, like, that's a super complicated topic with so many layers, and how are you going to fit that into 20 minutes or less? Oh, well, that's exactly the topic. It's why is it complicated? Why can't things just be simple? In its most simplistic way. In my head, I see it this way. The reason why we can't just have one simple way to do things when it comes to the economy, emotions, our jobs, our education, our other relationships, love, finances, everything has layers, and those are layers of our own making. If you look around into other parts of well, let's get primal with this. Other parts of the animal kingdom. Let's say rabbits are a good example. We use rabbits in cartoons for exactly that reason. They don't think much of it. They're prey, they know what they can eat, they know what will eat them. They'll run from what eats them and they'll run towards what they can eat. They consume what they can eat to gain energy to continue running. It's their way of life. They still have time in their lives to raise a family, find people they care about, explore new habitats. Uh, Hell, the way they evolved had to have happened in some way, shape, or form by them experiencing their form of life. But with human beings, it's very different. Uh, a lot of it, I assume, is because we're almost always at each other's throats. Which I mean, no one can really be blamed for, right? It's actually proven to be human nature to be violent, and as awful as that is to understand, and as many people as there will be that'll be like, well, it's not human nature to be violent. It look to the past. It's kind of filled with examples. If human nature wasn't instinctually against each other. We wouldn't have had racism, wars, famine maybe, but uh, as much as the negative has happened because of it, we also wouldn't have skyscrapers, the internet, medicines, travel across the world, boats, planes. Education is something that came from war. Uh, and I've mentioned in the past, I think it was in one of my Homeless Crusade videos, that I believe that money is one of the main things that humans did wrong. Putting value on things really, really set us down an awful path. But that's because the moment we try to contradict each other, either with ideas, emotions, physically, we're immediately adding layers of our own. You don't see this in other parts of the animal kingdom, right? You'll see uh, violence and hunger, but the difference between those and why ours led to development and theirs is kind of just seen as animal instinct, even though it really is just both instinct, even with us, is because they don't do it for the sake of violence. They do it kind of because they have no choice. And that's what I mean by like it can be simple. We human beings are only different from those animals because we can think for ourselves, because we can go over what we've already developed. Like, think of the best animal, the king of animals that you can think of, whether it's a predator, a prey, something beautiful, something dangerous, a lion, a cat, a bear, a dolphin. Dolphins are said to be more intellectually capable than humans, but they're tied down by animal instinct as well. Any way you look at it, those animals are incapable of putting of applying what they've learned over time into making something new. And there will be those who have also heard the story of, I mentioned dolphins. They play games with seashells on the floor of the sea that most human beings can't recognize. Divers are originally the people who showed dolphins how to do that, but dolphins have the ability to learn. They just don't have the ability to apply it like we do. We are blessed with the ability to apply ourselves. And that's has a really easy way of moving me off topic as well, actually, because it's something I'm fairly interested in, and exploring human beings and how they work has fascinated me throughout my life, as I'm sure it has for grand majority of people. I mean, it's intriguing to figure out how we all work. But somewhere down the line, we developed a system called, well, society, right? Civilization. It's meant to be collected and together, and with so many billions of people, that can only be contained a number of ways. And one of those ways I have to imagine is making the important things too complicated to, let's say, navigate in the span that we are alive. And by that I mean is we're not giving ourselves enough time. We're putting layers on layers To do what? Yeah, I really got to start writing scripts for this because I have the idea in my head and I'm just now thinking to myself, putting it into words isn't quite putting it into the words as I understand them. It's word for word how it is in my head, but when it's said out loud, or even if you say it how you think it still feels like to people it won't make as much sense. I guess I'll keep going. I just think it would be easier, right? If we didn't force ourselves to have to put in so much effort to achieve the same thing we could if we hadn't done this to ourselves. Because overcomplicating things, it's yeah. Okay, I don't expect everything to just kind of pop overnight and suddenly everything's becoming simple. No, 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 no. That's not what this is. For the most part, I'm just rambling. I'm gonna get it out of my system, right? It's healthier than punching holes in walls or whatever else people do to release their whatever demons. Uh, really is just stressful. Mm. Like, really, what is the point of putting so many restrictions on ourselves and the communities we're a part of if it literally still leads to the same result? I am no stranger to trying to manipulate the system to hurt people who have wronged me, right? I've I might be young, but I've lived in hell, so but I pushed through it. I pushed through it because I tried to be simple. Turns out that's far more damaging to you when you get out of said hell if you were to actually put in some damn effort. But here's what it is. The world really shouldn't work. Like really, one person falls out of line and basically the entire system crumbles around them, which leads back to what I said earlier. Why the hell would anyone put restrictions on themselves and others if it leads to the same result? It's, people have lost their reasoning to do that though. And that's not being what I was just saying, my brain's doing that thing again where it decides to think of another thing and then it just comes out of topic. There are a lot of things that people just don't go anywhere near, ideas or actions that nobody will touch unless they are really pushed to do so. I think of these things extremely often. Uh, whether it's a type of development or science or something that you know can be done, and it wouldn't take much of anything at all. The only problem is the only reason why nobody has actually come across and done these things is because something else is already in place to handle the problem that's meant to be solved by this idea. And there's just no real reason to try to replace something that works, right? And that's where I think the layers pose the biggest problem. The layers that we put against ourselves. It's as much as it helps us to grow and understand and develop further, it's kind of a way of making a finish line, don't you think? I'm not the biggest fan of making goals, and this will lead into something, I promise. Because goals mean that there's an end to it, a finish line, if you will. Why start something? Why would I want it to stop? If I start something that can yield something, even if it's progress that's already been made, if I'm so adamant about it, what why would I want a reason to set it aside? Right? I've touched a lot on the physical and like mental side of things. There's one more side of it I wanted to kind of press in, hopefully within the next 2 minutes. The emotional part of it. I am not too terribly in touch with my emotions. I've kind of only just begun to try to figure that out. I've spent my life closed off and locked in my own head, so it's still rather new to me. So I could very well be wrong in this, but from experiences I have had, I'm kind of putting this together as I go. It's kind of my style, live in the moment. It's the most exciting place to be. I have an old friend who gave me advice. The advice was to try to be more open about what's on my mind. And when caught in conflict, to explain it as fully as I can. It wasn't long after he had given me that advice that I ended up having conflict with him and his kids. I tried to take his advice to heart because it was a connection I was desperate to not lose. These people were very important to me. They were kind of very much shaping who I was over the last 8 or so years, even if they didn't know it. and taking their advice because I am not great with people or emotions. I got misinterpreted and it came off as rude. And because I didn't understand that I was in the wrong, I ended up making more and more mistakes as time went on. Now, that person, that old friend, is now holding a grudge against me. Uh, that's been going on for pretty good, pretty long while. And as much as I know where my mistakes lie, were made because they were explained to me. I don't understand them because I don't have any other experiences to connect it to. Because living so long as an emotional husk, as it were, uh, I, it was new to me. It was brand new. And actually, this last week, I actually found myself doing something I, again, regret. I had overcomplicated it. In my head, I saw him as the reason that I lost the people close to me. And upon doing so, I wanted to use the people, mutual friends, who I know he trusts enough to talk to about these rough, rough things. And to use that trust to snap at him. Sorry, it's hard for me to talk about these things. It's not easy. Uh, with that said, I wanted to use this current example in my life of me adding layers and making it more complicated. Because trying to rush emotion is far more risky than trying to rush ideas or to overcomplicate ideas. Because emotions, in my opinion, don't seem that complicated. They're hard to navigate because of their simplicity. That makes sense? It's easier to drive on a road and stay straight on the road if you have turns to take. But if you were to have the same length of road going just straight, you'll find yourself drifting off of it from time to time. Granted, it won't be very often, but eventually you'll have to adjust back to the center of the lane. You don't do that as often if you're turning often, right? Like if you're taking a left or right turn often, you don't have to adjust where in the lane you are as often. It's done for you while you take the turn. That's why we often view or imagine our paths through life as uh, uh, steps or twists and turns, trials and rewards. It's because you can't. It, it, it's harder to move forward when it's simple. It just seems cowardly to have complicated things to make it easier. Like if you stop for a second and think about like what the human race would be like if we never put those limiters on ourselves. What could we have done? Right? What could we accomplish that we haven't already? There's a lot. There's a lot of things we could be doing. But because it's not worth the cost, not worth the effort, we're like, whatever, we'll leave it to a newer generation with the balls to do so. Seems almost lazy. But this is a bad analogy. Uh, Winding versus straight road. It fits well in my head again, but that's because I can kind of imagine it, right? Because if you're driving on a straight road, you'll eventually tilt off to one shoulder, and you'll have to automatically adjust, and you'll never be in the same place. Trying to explain how simple emotions actually are, but explaining it is complicated. It's easier to have an idea about what emotions are when it's brand new to you, when it sits in your head without whatever filters people put on it over their lives. I don't know. That's all I had in mind for this one. It's taking a bit of a weird turn. No, I think overcomplicating things just leads to more stress and conflict, chaos, if you were to kind of put a broad term to it. Then kind of just leaving it to the whole flow of things. And by flow of things, I'm not meaning like leave it to the social standards or whatever rules have been put up or whatever. I put a grand majority of my time as a kid into figuring out what I could teach my body to do without me having to think to do it. there's a lot of a lot of things that you could train your instincts to be in charge of. And it makes it a lot more simple. It makes going with the flow a lot safer and a lot more productive than one might think. The biggest example that I can think of only one other person who will actually understand this by me explaining it, but it's the only person I've actually tutored in computer sciences, and it's because of the way I learn things that me tutoring him, he figured it out, the way I think about things. It's actually kind of interesting when he was explaining it back to me. I wasn't expecting it. I don't try to memorize knowledge. I don't try to absorb or contain the things I learn to apply it later. I know it's how it's supposed to work, and you're supposed to learn the things that you'll use in the moment and or the things that you'll use for what you'll be doing for your life and whatnot. That's not the way I like to do things at all, and I probably won't ever follow that. The way I try to learn things is similar. I'll study, of course. I'll take notes. I'll read through textbooks, online materials. I'll write papers to drill it into my head. But then I'll do my best to try to change up the way it is in my head. And to that extent, the best way I can kind of explain it is I'll get a little bit in a computer terminology here. I guess I'll run like simulations in my head using that knowledge. And then I'll do my best to try to forget I ever learned it. I'll drive my body and my mind straight up to their brink of exhaustion. And by the time any test or any part of where I would need the knowledge comes in, or comes to be in front of me as a hurdle, I don't have to put an effort to think about it, to remember it, to put two and two together. That's, of course, I haven't doing that, but because the way I learned things, doing exactly what I had said I do, I ended up having more of a instinctual knowledge when it comes to the things I'm interested in, being a lot of simple sciences and technology, uh, math, physics, chemistry, biology. It made it easier. Making it simpler made it easier. It fascinates me that more people don't do that. It seems odd to me, right? I am not much younger than a majority of the people I meet that have no idea what they're doing when it comes to uh, the technology of today's age. I actually know people who are younger than me by small amounts that also know nothing about it, and it surprises me because we live growing up with this stuff. I'm 21. I didn't grow up with dial up or the whole payphone struggle. I didn't really have to deal with that. All of my books are in 60 hertz, right? Uh, but I still know about them. I know how they work. I know who invented them, their origins, what they were used for, what they can be applied to, their compatibility with older and newer technology. Hell, I even built one myself. Dial-up stand over there in my closet. It's weird. Doesn't really work as dial-up anymore because that whole network's gone, but it works as Morse. It works as a little bit of a Morse code thing. It's kind of cool. Should plug it in one day. Do a little video tutor on dial-up. That'd be cool. Uh, I didn't even like try to learn about it. I learned about it by like exposure to it. And I didn't really apply myself in school. Like throughout any grade, grades 1 through 12, I barely listened. I slept through a grand majority of my classes. I was a little bit of a miscreant in my younger years, even got expelled from one school one time. I didn't learn it from there. I can tell you that much. Like, I'm the kind of person who has the values of SOHCAHTOA at the value of 1 and 0 memorized in my head. I can do trigonometry on the go in mental math. I'm smart enough to do that. But I failed grade 10 math. The math classes you learn about that stuff. I failed that class miserably. I may have passed the end of high school with well over a 90%, but it's because I figured out a better way to learn, actually, and aced almost every test. Grade 10 math, I got like a 30 something percent. I did nothing in school. So why is it so hard for other people to figure this out? And if other people are having like the ideas of, oh, it's mental struggles, it's anxiety, it's ADHD, it's autism. Guess what I got? The whole damn list. You think I'm not stressed out? My bed's covered in clothes. To right of me is a pile of cereal boxes and pizza and 7-Eleven bags. I'm not doing well. I'm stressed the fuck out. I am almost constantly in a panic. There are parts of me I will tell no one. I've lived the trauma. I've gone through it just as much as anyone else has. There are third world countries that I would fit in with. If your excuse is that you've been through a hard time and that's why you can't learn it, that's a load of bullshit, really. The way I see it is I have met very, very few people who can hold a candle to the amount of hell I've been through. The list of people who have seen worse than I have is short. So if I can do these things, everyone else can. Everyone. And if you can't, you're not a human being. It's kind of our whole gig, right? Human beings, the most adaptable species on the planet, capable of the highest intelligence. Most of you make me think my ass. No. Now I'm just getting angry. Getting angry at stupid people. It's funny. And I don't know everything, right? I have a very basic knowledge on a lot of the things that interest me. I'm one of the best in the world at the thing that interests me the most, but that's besides the point. I If it comes to astronomy or like organic chem, even medicine's a huge interest to me. But if I were to talk to a professor of of cardiology or even nephrology, which is another interest of mine, I've learned something just by having a coffee and discussing basic things. Like I don't know everything, right? I'm not trying to seem like this know-it-all who just expects people to also be capable of knowing so much. I put in a lot of work to be a jack of all trades, and it wasn't easy. My point is that you can if you do. And I think a lot of people are scared to do because of the limits they put on themselves. They overcomplicate it. Someone else will do it. I have time. Why the hell does that matter? I have time. Sure, sure. Yeah, if you have a support circle and you have the time to be able to coast along and figure it out as you go, props to you. You did the beginning of your life well, and you actually start off the hard part of life with that circle already up, right? And like that's a really good thing to have. Makes it a lot easier. With somebody who started it without the circle of support, friends, family. It's important. It's important to have. You cannot move through this world without it. It's genuinely impossible. But why? I got the time. I'll put it off to why? The only person whose time would would get in your way is your own. So if you're using that time to make up excuses like I have, you're only hurting yourself. And I have some extremely bad habits when it comes to that. I still do that. I will still make up excuses. Excuses that hold don't really hold any value at all. Whether it's um standing people up for events or outings, figuring out a way around uh committing to a promise. It's not a great habit to be in. It leaves me with a lot of guilt. A lot of guilt. And I really try to emphasize this to the people I care most about. That if they tried, if they didn't hold themselves back, that it could be better. Why settle for what you have and use that to coast when you could have the best and go down from there? And I would say why go down at all, but you'd actually have to go down if you wanted to go back up. Because if you're at the peak of what you can get done in the span of, let's say, a day, there's at that point time is your enemy. It's not your time, it's the world's time. There's only so much you can get done in a day. Nah. Anyway, I think that about does it for my rant. I have no idea where I was going with it. It kind of started out as me thinking, oh, hey, let's explain why I think the world is bullshit and is too overcomplicated and why everyone's an idiot, including myself. Uh, as well as tying in a little bit of, my usual emotional dump, which no one will understand except for maybe the people who know me. But other than that, I think I end this episode here. It's in 45 minutes, so much longer than I usually make these. And again, I upload these as raw footage because one, I couldn't be bothered to edit out the the bits. I'm too lazy. I don't care enough. People who watch my channel and have the time to throw it on in the background usually do, so I don't give a damn. Um, nah, a lot on the mind, scrambled, tends to happen. That said, I'm gonna end this episode here. If you guys enjoyed, feel free to like and subscribe. I don't put out videos as often anymore, but I'm definitely trying to find a re- find an excuse to be back in the habit. I upload music and vlogs, just random topics and rants. Feel free to check out my music. I had a few implications with the last track I had made. I'm hoping to get that out soon, so that way I can release it as a full album. And keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming in pretty soon. I think I almost got it figured out. Other than that, if you have any comments or questions for me regarding anything I talked about in this video or any of my past videos, feel free to comment down below. I'm always willing to discuss these things. I don't usually go on this long about things I don't enjoy, so I'm more than happy to talk to people about it. Anyway, I think that just about does it. I'm the Ginger Psychopath. You all have a nice day.